Good morning, everyone. Today we'll discuss application layer concepts, communication protocols in application layer. So in previous session we discussed DNS communication protocol in application layer. Today we'll discuss um, remote login, Telnet, SMTP, and FTP. So coming to the application layer is a fourth layer in TCP/IP protocol stack. So we'll briefly discuss some of the concepts like in TCP/IP, what are the protocols supporting communication protocols supporting for the transport layer protocols as well as the IP layer protocols. So can you see this diagram? MIME, BGP, FTP, file transfer protocol, border gateway routing protocol, STDP, SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, Telnet will be supported by the TCP protocol, and SNMP protocol will be supported by the UDP protocol here. And the IP layer has some another protocols like ICMP, Internet Control Message Protocol, IGMP, Internet Group Management Protocol, OSPF, RSVP. Okay. So protocol stack implementation host, generally the transport and network can be implemented in software called as a kernel, and data link and physical can be implemented in a device drivers, that is firmware as well as the hardware. So how the application data passes through different layers here. When you send the packet from the application layer, the HTTP data is a payload for your HTTP header. Then when it comes to the transport layer, this HTTP header as plus HTTP payload data is a payload for the TCP header. Like that, the TCP header is a payload for the IP header in network layer, and IP header is a payload for the MAC header in data link layer as well as in the physical header here. So in this process, the data passes through the different layers. We are adding new headers for each payload data. First, application layer HTTP header. Again, in transport layer, HTTP header plus TCP header. In network layer, TCP header plus IP header. The packet is encapsulated like this. And IP header, in coming to data link layer, IP header, MAC header, and coming to the physical layer, lowest layer, you can say lower layer, MAC header as well as the physical header. So the responsibilities of application layer is identifying and establishing the availability of intended communication partners here. Okay, with the help of applications, establishing agreement on procedures on error recovery, controlling the data integrity, synchronizing cooperating applications here. So these are examples for the application layer. One is DNS, one is file transfer protocol, FTP, hypertext transfer protocol, HTTP, simple mail transfer protocol, SMTP, simple network management protocol, SNMP, and Telnet. So in previous class we discussed DNS. Today we'll go through the concepts like remote login, electronic mail, and file transfer. Okay. So what is remote login? What is the main task of internet? Is to provide the services for the users here. Okay. Most popular applications are remote login. Next one is the electronic mail. Next one is the file transfer. What is remote login? In internet, we can see users may want to run some application programs at remote site and create the results that can be transferred to their local sites here. So example, you can see students want to connect for university labs from their home to access application programs for doing homework, assignments, projects, etc. So we want to satisfy, one way to satisfy that demand and others to create a client-server application program for each desired service here. Programs such as FTP, email, and SMTP are so on currently available nowadays. So it is impossible to write specific client-server program for each demand here. So better solution is, let's users access any application programs on remote computer. That is, allow user to log on to remote computer and use the services available on remote computer and transfer result back to the local computer here. So in that, first we have telnet. So what is a telnet? Telnet, terminal network, we can call it as a terminal network, is a standardized TCP IP protocol for virtual terminal service, which is proposed by the ISO. Telnet is a general purpose client server application. So Telnet enables the establishment of connection to remote system. That is, local terminal appears to be a terminal at remote system, and we can see a time sharing environment here. Telnet is designed in operating system such as Linux, Unix time sharing operating system environment. Supports multiple users. Interaction between user and computer occurs through a terminal. Okay. And interaction between user and computer occurs through a terminal. Combination of keyboard, monitor, mouse. Okay. How you are doing the logging process here? Logging, each you authorize user as identification and probably a password here. Okay. Having a password. User identification defines user part of the system. To access a system, user logs onto system with user ID or login name and password here. When user logs into local time sharing system, it is called as a local login. It is called as a local login. Okay. The user types a terminal or at a workstation running at local emulator. Keystrokes are accepted by the terminal driver here. Terminal driver passes characters to the operating system. Then OS invokes desired application programs or utilities to the end users here. When user wants to access an application or utility located on remote machines, she performs remote login here. This is the second part called as a remote login. First part is called as a local login. With the help of terminal driver, with the help of some keyboard to access the utilities or programs in the remote system. Okay now. So coming to the remote login, when user want to access the application or utility located on remote machine, she performs remote login here. So characters are sent to the telnet driver, which transforms characters to the universal characters called as a NVT. NVT stands for Network Virtual Terminal and delivers them to the local TCP protocol stack here. Commands are text in NVT form, travel to internet and arrive at TCP IP protocol stack at remote machine. So it can travel to the terminal driver, to telnet, to TCP protocol stack through internet, again to the protocol of TCP IP protocol stack of remote machine. Here characters are delivered to the operating system and passed to the telnet server here, like this, with the help of pseudo terminal drivers. So we have some network virtual terminal control commands. You can see here so many control commands for NVT. End of the file, binary notation and decimal notation is there, and error, end of the record, not error, sorry, end of the record, sub option end, no option, no operation, data mark, break, interrupt process, abort output, are you there, erase character, erase line, like that. You can have n number of control characters for the NVT. Okay, these are some of them. There are some options. We can see codes, different codes for the options. 0 for interrupted 8-bit binary transmission, 1 code for echo, 3 for suppressed go ahead, 5 for status, okay, and 6 for timing mark, 24 for terminal time, 32 for terminal speed, 34 for line node. So NVT character set for opinion negotiation. These are some character sets. We can see will, want, do not. Okay. Two uses two sets characters, one for data, other for the control here. One for data, one for control. So next we'll go for electronic mail. So what is electronic mail? Allows a message to include text, audio and video generally. So most popular internet service is the electronic mail, that is called as email nowadays. Okay. So this architecture consists of several components we discuss in this chapter. Okay. There are three main components. One is user agent and message transfer agent. Example for this is SMTP. Message access agents, that is POP, as well as the IMAP. Okay. So to explain this electronic mail architecture, we have 4 scenarios. Okay. So we discuss one first scenario in electronic mail. So in first scenario, sender and receiver of email are users on same system. Okay, sender and receiver of email are users on same system. They are directly connected to the shared system here. The administrator is created one mailbox for each user where receiver messages are stored. A mailbox is a part of local hard drive, a special file with permission restrictions here. Only owner of mailbox has access to it. When sender and receiver of email are same system or on same system, we need only 2 user agents. One is at sender side, one is at the receiver side here. User agent program generally prepare messages and store in the mailbox here. So you can see this. When sender and receiver on email on same system, we need only 2 user agents. In second scenario, when sender and receiver of a email are on different systems. So in previous one, we have seen only one system, this shared by the 2 users. Now there are 2 users, they are different systems. They are not sharing the same system. They are having their different systems here. When sender and receiver of email are on different systems, we need 2 user agents, 1, 2, and we need 2 pair of MTA. One is client, one is the server here. I'll say what is MTA. Message transfer agent. So first of all, Alice at the side of sender, Bob is the receiver, I think. Alice need to use user agent program to send her messages to system at her own site. Okay. The system sometimes called as a mail server. What is the system located at the Alice? It is called as a mail server, and the system located at the Bob side, it is called as a MTA server or system server, mail server here. The system sometimes called as a mail server at our own site uses a queue to store the messages. Okay, to be what are the messages you are sending? They are stored in a queue format, which is to be sent here. Bob also needs user agent program to retrieve the messages stored in the mailbox of the system at its own site. The message needs to send through internet from Alice site to the Bob's site here. So to communicate, we need some internet connection from Alice to the Bob. Here two message transfer agents are needed, one at client side, one at the server side here. Okay. Now you understand, I think, when the sender and receiver are on same email are different systems, we need two user agents and pair of two MTS, message transfer agents, client side as well as the server side. Coming to the third scenario, Bob is directly connected to his own system, but Alice is separated here from our own system here. So Alice is connected to the system via point-to-point or LAN, you can say. So point-to-point or WAN, you can say. Point-to-point WAN is nothing but you can see dial-up modems such as dial-up modems, DSL or cable modems. Okay. On LAN, you can say connected to LAN in the organization that uses one mail server for handling the emails here. So WAN is nothing but it may connect from point-to-point WAN, dial-up modems, DSL or cable modem here. So all users need to send their messages to email server first of all. Alice still needs user agent to prepare her own message. We need some user agent to prepare the message to be sent to the mail server here. Okay. So she then needs to send message through LAN or WAN. This can be done through a pair of message transfer agents here. Message transfer agents, MTS, at client side as well as the server side. Whenever the Alice has message to send, he calls the user agent, which in turn calls the MTA client here. MTA client establishes a connection to the MTA server on a system which is running all the time. Okay. And send through the internet to the MTA server, that is the mail server of the Bob, so that Bob can receive the mail from the mail server of its own system of the Bob. Coming to the fourth scenario, Bob is also connected to his mail server by WAN or LAN. In previous, only Alice is connected, but here in fourth scenario, Bob and Alice both are connected to the mail server by the WAN or LAN, you can say. Okay, we need another set of client server agents. Generally, we are using only message transfer agents till now. Now we need another two client as well as server side MA agents here, called as MA is nothing but message access agents here. We need another set of client server agents which is called as a message access agents. Bob uses MA client to retrieve his messages. Client sends request to MA server which is running all the time and requests the transfer of the messages. So two important points to remember here. Bob cannot bypass the mail server and use the MTA server directly here. To use MTA server directly, Bob would need to run MTA server all the time because he does not know when the message will be arriving here. Second, Bob needs another pair of client server programs. That is MA message access agents. MTA client server programs is a path program. The client pushes a message to server. Bob needs to pull the program here. So you can see the scenario. MTA client server program is a push program and the client pushes a message to the server and Bob needs to pull the program here. So when both sender and receiver are connected to the mail server via LAN or WAN, we need two user agents, two pair of MTS and pair of MAS, message access agents here. This is most common situation we are seeing in today. Okay. So coming to the services of a user agent, what the user can provide the service to provided, generally the services to provided to the user agent here. One is composing of messages here. I think you can compose a message, read the message, replying to the messages, forwarding the messages, handling the mailboxes. What is a mailbox? There are normally two types of mailboxes. One is inbox, one is the outbox. What is inbox? Inbox keeps all received mails until they are deleted by the user. So you can see when you open your mail, you can see inbox as well as the outbox. Inbox generally keeps all received mails until they are deleted by the user. What is the outbox then? Outbox keeps all sent mails until user deletes them. Yes or no? So some examples of command-driven user agents are Mail, Pine, ELM, Men. Some examples of GUI-based user agents are Edura, Outlook, and Netscape. Okay. So what is the format of an email generally? So generally the postal mail can see like this, and electronic mail can be seen from where to where you are sending mail from, okay, to date, subject, okay. And what is the email address? What is the, generally we type some mail address, your mail address. Example, Vikram Narandas @gmail.com. So Vikram Narandas is a local part, and domain name is a gmail.com. Okay, domain name of the mail server. Local part is the address of the mailbox on the mail server here. Okay. So here, what is MIME? What is the purpose of MIME? So MIME stands for multi-purpose internet mail extensions here. Okay. MIME is a supplementary protocol that allows non-ASCII data to be sent through the email here. So generally electronic mail is simple structure. It can send messages only in NVT, Network Virtual Terminal 7-bit ASCII format here. Network Virtual Terminal ASCII format. Cannot send binary files like video files, audio files. But MIME, multi-purpose internet mail extensions, can send binary files as well as the video audio files here. It's a supplementary protocol that allows non-ASCII data to be sent through the email. So MIME transforms non-ASCII code at sender side to NVT, Network Virtual Terminal ASCII data, and delivers it to the client MTA client MTA to send through the internet here. MIME has a set of software functions that transforms non-ASCII data to ASCII data and vice versa here. So generally MIME header format, if we see the header format, defines 5 header formats here, 5 headers that can be added to the original email header section to define transformation parameters. One is the MIME version, content type. Again, in content type you can have type as well as a subtype. Content transfer encoding, okay, encoding type you can say. Content ID, what message ID you can say. Content description, textual explanation of non-textual contents. So email header, MIME header formats here, defines 5 headers that can be added to original email header section, define transformation parameters here. So MIME version, we'll clearly explain each MIME versions here. MIME versions, this header defines version of MIME used. The current version is the 1.1. Okay, now content type, next header is a content type. What is a content type here? This content type header defines type of data used in body of a message. Type of data used in a body of message. Content type and subtype divided by slash notation here. Okay. depends upon subtype. Header may contain other parameters here. Okay, so coming to the text, it may be a plain 7-bit ASCII format. Subtypes you can see plain and HTML here. Okay, so next content type is a multi-part. Multi-part is a content type, and subtype are mixed, parallel, digest, alternative. So what is a mixed? So this multi-part contains multiple independent parts here. So the parameter is a string token that comes before each part here. So mixed, what is a mixed here? Mixed is nothing but presented to receiver exact order in a message. What the message you are sending, you should be getting in a same format here. Body contains order parts of different data types here. Parallel, similar to the mixed type but no order here. Digest, similar to the mixed subtype but the default is a message here. That is RFC 822. Alternative, parts are different versions of same message here. Next, coming to the content type message, we have body itself is an entire email message, a part of mail message, pointer the message. Okay, we have 3 subparts: partial, external body, RFC 8222. Coming to the content type of image, we can have 2 subtypes again. JPEG. What is JPEG stands for? Joint Picture Expert Group. Okay, Joint Picture Expert Group. So original image is a stationary image indicating there is no animation. So Joint Photographic Expert Group. So generally JPEG used for the compression, uses for the image compression. GIF stands for Graphic Interchange Format. So you can, the image is in a format of GIF format or JPEG format generally. So coming to the content type video, MPEG. MPEG stands for Motion Picture Expert Group. It contains subtype is a video is in a MPEG format here. It contains sounds. It most to be sent separate audio content type here. Audio basic contains original message is a sound. Subtype is a basic here. Uses 8-bit kilohertz voice, standard voice here. And last one is the content type is application. PostScript. PostScript is used when the data is used in Adobe PostScript format here. Last one is the octet stream, used when data must be interpreted as a 8-bit bytes binary here. Coming to the content transfer encoding, third header file. This header defines method used to encode message into zeros or ones to transport it. Okay, so there are types again: 7-bit, 8-bit, binary, base64, quartet printable. So 7-bit is a NVT ASCII, network virtual terminal ASCII characters and short lines here. No special transformation is needed. Length of the line should not exceed 1000 lines here in 7-bit. Coming to the 8-bit, non-ASCII characters are sent, and binary 8-bit encoding here. Non-ASCII characters can be sent here. Length of the binary can exceed 1000 line characters. Generally, SMTP protocol must be able to transfer this binary data here. And base64 blocks the data encoded into 8-bit ASCII characters here. Next header is the content ID. Next header is the content ID, that is called a message ID. Header uniquely identifies old message in multiple messages environment here. Next one is the content description. It is a textual explanation of non-textual contents. This header defines whether body is a image or audio or video here. Okay. So in next session we'll discuss SMTP. Thank you for listening this session.